yourself a friend. Lay down your defenses and fears. You're welcome here. Yes, you're welcome here. Yes, you're welcome here.
Good afternoon. I'm Reverend Dave Thompson. I'm really excited to bring you back today to our Civil Human Bible study. So I'm a civil human minister, and what that means is that I focus my ministry and my service in the area of building peace and common ground for humans. And that's my endeavor as I'm going through my own spiritual heritage to look at the teachings of Jesus, to try to find those things that I feel are applicable across the board to all humans. And that regardless of our different faiths, regardless of our different politics and our different lifestyle, I would love to encourage you, if you'd click on this button right down here that says subscribe. That way we can stay in contact with one another. If you're on Facebook, please like the page so that we can continue to talk back and forth, and I can relate some of the interesting things that are going to be coming up. I'm really excited about some shows that are going to be coming up in the future, and I just wanted to let you know. Let's go ahead and jump into the passage. It's Matthew chapter 26, verses 30 through 36. Starting with verse 30. And when they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, "All of you will be made to stumble because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have been raised, I will go before you to Galilee." Peter answered and said to him, "Even if all were made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble." Jesus said to him, "Assuredly I say to you that this night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you." And so said all the disciples. So I'd like to set up a little bit where we're at right now in the account of Jesus. This is the end of the story of Jesus. We're getting right to the place where he's about to be betrayed over to the religious leaders of his day. And right now he is with his disciples really for the last time. And so he's reaching out to them to share a dinner with him. We just talked about communion, where he used the bread and the wine of Passover and gave it a new ritual and a new way of remembering what he's doing. And now they've gone to the Mount of Olives, which is an area close to the historic Jerusalem today even, that you can go to. And it's this area where they just wanted to congregate. They sang it says they sang a hymn. So basically they're just chilling out and singing some songs together and relaxing a bit. And all of them are on edge, I would imagine, because Jesus has told them at the beginning of the day that he's going to be handed over. Not only that, but he's going to be betrayed by one of them. And they're not exactly sure who that is yet. And now he's telling them that they are all going to step away or to be stumbled. This word stumbled in the Greek is the same word that we get scandal from. It's this idea of falling away or being entrapped in something, falling into a trap. The idea being that Jesus is saying, look, tonight, after all, when this is all going to go down, you all are going to mess up. You're all going to completely abandon me. So what in the world is Jesus talking about? And why is he giving them a warning? And why does Peter freak out, right? Because he begins to stand up, and Peter says, look, even if all of these guys betray you, I'm not going to betray you. I never will. And then you see Jesus looking at him and saying, look, Peter, tonight, this very night, you are going to deny me 3 times. And it says before the crows calls 3 in the morning, before the rooster crows. So Jesus is basically saying, look, even before the sunrise comes up, you're going to deny me 3 times. And then Peter replies that even if he has to die, he would never do that. And then all the disciples, of course, follow suit and say that, yeah, what Peter said, we are not going to fall away from you. I'd like to use this conversation. This particular passage is oftentimes overlooked. People see it as Peter, of course, being this guy who seems to want to be the leader of their posse. He seems to be the one who's always talking to Jesus or making accusations, or just he's the one who's recorded most in the account. And in this case, Peter stands up again, because I guess he just likes to be the one to start things, and denies the fact that he's ever going to do something so horrible as to deny Jesus. I mean, after all, they have spent their whole last 3 years living with this guy. They really have become like a family. They become so close, so it seems ridiculous to Peter and to the rest of the disciples that they would ever do something like that. They understand there may be somebody who's going to betray them, like Judas, who's going to do so. But why in the world is Jesus telling them this? There's something very important here that is a human lesson for us. Something that transfers from 2,000 years ago in an ancient culture to right here, right now. This situation is an important one to acknowledge, especially in our context. And I want to talk about what it's like to stand up for what's right when nobody else will, and what to expect from those who support when the times are good and the stuff's not falling apart, and what to do about that. I think there's some key points in just basic human nature here that are actually pretty interesting, and I found pretty applicable. Many of you know that I spent almost 20 years reaching across the board politically, working to build coalitions, to work with multiple parties to find common ground. That I worked socially with individuals in different countries to try to work together on some social change. And that I also worked together with the religious community to try to pull together conservatives and liberals to get them to talk about things that centered around what we could all agree on. That particular work left me moving very much alone in amidst my work. For basically 20 years, I was doing something that nobody wanted to do, because there's something in the nature of us as human beings who want to pick a side. We, generally speaking, want to choose a side. Why is that? It's because if we don't have a side, we don't belong. And there's something hardwired to us as human beings, something that is absolutely fundamental about how we operate as a creature. And that is that we have this incessant need to belong to the group. As you can imagine, that's pretty normal, right? Because if we didn't belong to the group, then we risk being unsafe. When we have power in numbers, we feel safe. There's less to worry about because we've got somebody in our corner. There's vindication and praise for what we do because other people agree with it. The trouble with building peace and common ground is that people aren't wanting to forgive the other side yet. People don't want to talk about common ground because it means that they're going to have to step outside of their group to understand and to empathize with another. So I found myself oftentimes finding limited amounts of people to encourage me. And I found some comfort in this particular verse, in this particular passage, and some identity with Jesus in this particular area. When we are the ones who are standing up against what we know is wrong, and what everybody knows is wrong, really, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. When we are the ones to stand for that, it means that we have to do that without the support of others. And even like Peter did to Jesus, I had individuals come to me and say, I want to support you, I want to be a part of what you're doing. But then all of a sudden, when the opposing sides came at them, when they suggested to them that they are cohorting with the enemy, or that they are bad people because of their association with me or because I associate with both sides, I found that those individuals would drop away. One thing I love about this particular story is that Jesus doesn't seem to have a problem with it. He doesn't say, you guys are going to abandon me, so forget you, you're done, because you didn't support me or you had a moment of failure. No, it seems like Jesus really understands the nature of who human people are. And that is, when we fight against something that's so fundamental to us as human beings, this need to belong, when we have to fight against that, it is one of the most difficult things to do as a human being. It takes bravery and courage to stand up and to talk about things that people don't want to talk about, and to talk about peace, knowing that if we don't, we'll end up in violence. And that's not where we want to be. And I want to encourage you, those of you who are trying to take a stand, who are, especially today, in the US, but also around the world, we're finding it very polarizing. Social media, the internet, we thought it would open up people's eyes. We thought that it would allow people to understand that we're all the same because they could see it firsthand. But in fact, what we've found is that the internet has provided a way for people to live in these even more defined silos, these even more defined groups of individuals who think exactly the same thing. Because if somebody upsets you, you just unfriend them. It's not like they live next to you or that they're going to have somehow interact with you. So it's easy for us to do that. And in this world right now, we need individuals who are willing to stand up, who are willing to stand in front of their friends and say, I'm going to start working for this. And in my case, for peace and common ground, it's something I would encourage you to do as well. We have to start talking about it. If we do not, it will continue to a point of violence. And that is suffering for everybody. And so I want to encourage those of you who are trying to make a stand, who are trying to talk to both sides, who are trying to help people understand that it is going to be difficult. It's going to be hard because people will not understand why you're doing it, because they're angry at the other side because of the hurt and injustices that they feel they've had. But I want to encourage you in this, later down the road, it will pay off because you'll begin to see the change. It takes time. It takes time to sit there and to stand up when nobody else is, when everybody else leaves you aside, when everybody else says, you know what, I just can't help you here because, it's going to hurt my job or it's going to hurt whatever it is their context. People are going to do that, but understand that that doesn't mean that they're bad people, and it doesn't mean that they can't be part of the cause. It just means that we have to be patient, and it may mean that we have to go it alone. It is difficult when we are standing for these things, because those who have stood for these kinds of difficult things, who have stood against the power and the system, who know that it's going to cause them great duress, when it's a reality for us, we know what it costs. We know how difficult it is going to be. We understand how lonely it's going to be. And so when we look at others around us who want to help and may from time to time just bow out because it's too much, it's important for us to understand that they probably don't understand just how difficult it is when they first sign on, right? They see us in all the good times. They see maybe the things that they are encouraged by because they see change. I just want to encourage those of you who are trying to make the stands, who are trying to go it alone, to take heart and to know that people will join you. And that even if they fall away, not to hold that against them, but to move forward knowing that later they can join in. Not everybody's wired for it. Not everybody is able to separate themselves from that basic human urge and need to belong. And so we need all kinds of different people. And I'm so grateful for those who were with me and supported me. Corrigan, my spouse, is one of those people, stayed with me and encouraged me through some very difficult and lonely times. My friends, my family, those people are wonderful blessings, even when everybody else may fall away or may just lose heart and not want to participate anymore. I want to encourage you. If you know somebody who is doing that, you don't have to jump in with them completely, but give them a kind word. Say thank you for what they're doing. Tell them that you appreciate it. It really makes a difference. It really does. I want to thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about something that is a really touching part of the story of Jesus to me. It's Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, just before he is betrayed, coming to terms with the absolute horror of the suffering that he's going to face and having to do that alone. And I want to talk about the bravery and courage of that tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to you joining me tomorrow, live at noon. And until that point, I want you to know that I love you. I hope you choose to love yourself too. It's the only love in this world that we have any control over. And until then, I'd ask that you would join me as we go about the rest of our day, loving those around us the same way. Thank you.